I'm going to talk about the Tech 1 Mercury. Got this one from nitroplanes.com. Hobby King also makes a version of this. It's called the Hobby King Breeze. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of this. I just got this one and this is my first blue model. It's a little bit different from the red models I've been flying. I don't know if it's just because it's the blue model, or if it's because they listened to feedback of what people were having problems with. And one of the problems with this plane, if I can get this rubber band loose, one of the problems is the wing spars generally, well, on the last ones I had, weren't worth a crap. I had to get a 1/8 of an inch carbon fiber rod, which is this right here, 1/8 of an inch, and I had to run it through the carbon fiber wing spar that's already there. It's roughly about 1/4 of an inch around with, it's just hollow, and I'll show you what they have here. Okay, this is new. They've got this 1/4 inch solid carbon fiber rod, and they also have this little 1/8 of an inch rod right here to help line up the back, which is a plus. It doesn't go all the way through it, it just goes in maybe an inch or so, and it's to keep the back end from doing this, and it was a problem in the past. I'm glad they addressed that. When it would move, when it would get off track like that, rubber bands would get caught in there and it would cut them. So you're in mid-flight and half your rubber bands all of a sudden start getting cut, and you're losing your support holding your wing to your plane. Not a good thing. So yeah, I'm gonna fly it how it came out of the box, the way the wing spar is, because now they made it where they have that whole 1/4 inch solid carbon fiber rod that runs, it's roughly about 12 inches. I wish it went at least halfway up the wings. I wish it was 2 foot, because it's 4-foot wingspan. I wish it went at least that far. What they had before was a little piece of plastic. It was square, and it inserted into the female wing roughly about an inch, and that broke very easily. And another problem they had was where each one of these carbon fiber rods joined, they had a plastic joiner, and that was a weak spot. I don't know if these are going to be any different. They look like they've been upgraded a little bit, except for the one where the wing starts to sweep up. It looks like it's the same kind. All these issues I'm talking about with this plane, I'm familiar with it because I've had this particular model for about a year. This is my third one. I'll show you the I guess you'd call it the Mercury graveyard. As you can see, this is one where I tried to make a wing spar with a dowel rod. That actually worked pretty good. But as you can see, this plastic joiner right here was a weak spot again. It broke right there where the wing starts to kick upward, is where it broke. So there you go, bad wing spar. This one, I just got tired of the wings separating and cutting the rubber band, so I just took Gorilla Glue and just glued the whole thing together. So that's the main issue with this plane. It flies great, but the wing spars in the past have been crap. After this video is uploaded, I will have flown it a few times, and I will leave some notes at the bottom whether the current addressed wing spar is sufficient or not. The first time I flew this plane, it was like the 4th flight, and I was coming in from a dive and went to bank to the right, and the wing spar snapped, and it came down from about 300 feet and slammed in the ground. One thing I will say about these planes is after they nose in the ground, I mean, like I said, that one came from about 300 feet down and plowed into the ground. I straightened the nose out. It was gonna be crooked no matter what, but I straightened it out as much as possible, and after I got another wing on it, it flew just fine. Believe it or not, from a 300-foot slam into the ground, the body was okay. It was a little bit wrinkled up, like I said, the nose was a little crooked. So the body can handle some abuse, except for the motor mount. You nose down, and this motor mount, all it has is a little bit of a plastic piece on the outside and this little tiny carbon fiber rod that's maybe a 1/16 of an inch in diameter, which is not enough. Now, if they made this plastic piece that goes all the way around, if they made that out of carbon fiber, I don't doubt that it would be much more stable. It would handle it a lot better. But the weight of the motor on a nose down collision, the motor mount breaks. I've glued this one probably several times, you can see. And yeah, it's mostly glue. More glue than styrofoam at this point. Well, the whole plane pretty much. So yeah, that's something that I did not see they fixed on the new model. I don't know what I'm going to do to try to reinforce that. I have no clue on what to do there. If anybody has any suggestions, leave a comment below. But just so you know, you can't put a piece of styrofoam on the back of it because this is where the wing goes. If I could have, I would have put a piece of styrofoam like in a shape of a ramp down like this at a slope to help absorb some of that impact. But there's just no way to do it because of the way the wing mounts to it. The only thing that can be done is to insert maybe a carbon fiber rod through the body and into here. I don't know. It's kind of a screwy situation. They should have made a much more secure mount there. Another issue is if you land a little bit hard on this landing gear, it will start to wrinkle, and literally the plastic piece that it sockets into will just fall out. So yeah, if you can address those issues, the plane flies great. I had another issue with building it. I actually had to cut some pieces of plastic where the stabilizer, vertical stabilizer and horizontal stabilizer meet. You can see these little plastic like sleeves for these studs right here to run into. And the problem with that is when you put it together and you have this little aluminum nut that goes on the bottom, once it goes through all those pieces, there's not enough room to tighten it with this little crappy tail landing gear. I actually on the last one that I flew, I took the tail landing gear off because the tail landing gear was just so crappy. Every time I tried to take off from the ground, it would veer left or right. That one's new, so I probably won't have to do that for a while. But that's something I wish they would address, is if they made these little plastic sleeves flush with the styrofoam, there would be enough room for this landing gear to fit on the studs after it goes through everything. What I did with this one and all the other ones is I took an X-Acto knife and stuck it in the middle of the sleeve and started cutting like a pigtail, a little curly Q with the X-Acto knife, and took enough off of it to where I could put the landing gear on. You can see right there, even one of the studs is too short. So quality control on this thing is, crappy. So And now they're not even lining up to be able to fit the landing gear on. But anyways, so you can see right here, this stud is long enough to put the little aluminum clasp on there, but this one is obviously too short when you put that landing gear on there. So yeah, if you get one of these Mercuries, before you even try to bolt the landing gear on there, go ahead and try to make that sleeve, that plastic sleeve, flush with the horizontal stabilizer. And let's see, what else is there to talk about on this? As far as flying, I haven't had a better flying plane yet, honestly. It's smooth flying. Everybody says that if you use a 2200 milliamp hour battery that it makes it nose heavy. I have not had that problem. Matter of fact, down here, this is a perfect sleeve to slide that battery into. If you can slide it in there about 2 or 3 inches, it makes the weight perfect. It's a little bit nose heavy, just as if it was with the 1800 milliamp hour battery, and you want that with any glider plane to give that nose down when you cut the throttle, kind of cut through that wind. But with that 2200 milliamp hour battery, I've got close to about an hour's worth of flight time. So yeah, guess which battery I'm going to use. Let's see, what else can we talk about with this? All right. They tell you if you're going to use flaps to get one servo that is reversed, because obviously if you have 2 servos in this this alignment, one's going to move one way and the other one's going to move the opposite way, just like the ailerons. So what I did was I hooked one up to the flaps channel, of course, and then I hooked the other one up through the gear channel. I'm using a 6-channel receiver and a 7-channel Spectrum DX7 remote, and I mixed that gear channel in with the the flap channel. So they're both moving. It took a little bit of figuring out, but I finally got them to stop at the exact same spot on the 3 different stages. The first stage, of course, being flat across, no flaps, and then the second stage being just a little bit of flap, and then of course the last stage full flaps, which it flies very slow on full flaps, but it will stay in the air. I've actually had this thing with full flaps the other day, not this one, but the one I recently crashed, with about a 5-mile-an-hour wind, and it sat there and hovered. It just stayed in one spot. I actually reached out there, grabbed it, shut the motor off, and didn't even have to touch the ground with it. You know?
Sweet.
So yeah, flaps are very efficient. You can see it's got all kinds of surface area there for the flaps. More surface area than the ailerons. Great gliding plane. The phone my cameraman Pierre is using to videotape this, I actually strapped that on top of where the wing goes, where the rubber bands come over top of it. I had that phone facing this way with the camera out, and flew it videotaping or doing high definition aerial video with it. It's not really FPV, but kind of like that. So if it can handle that, you know, with just a 4-foot wingspan, that phone has a extended battery in it. It's not a light phone. So.
But it's all good though, because
Yeah.
we now have a camera, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. My Fat Shark Pilot HD came in, so yeah, I really just need to hook that up to the transmitter,
I can't wait.
the video transmitter, and get a ground monitor, and this plane will be my FPV plane.
Yay!
Good thing about this this plane is it comes with two different canopies. This one, of course, and then it comes with one that's, I wish it wasn't styrofoam, but it's a FPV canopy. It's got a landing in the front that's flat where you can put a camera on it, and then another landing in the back. I guess you could put your video transmitter on that. So it's got two different landings there. I just wish it wasn't made out of styrofoam, and it's thin. It's like not even a quarter of an inch, close to it, but not even a quarter.
But there's always room for balsa wood, right? And
That's right. You could. That's a good idea. I may do that. I've got some. I've got some 3/16 plywood that I may cut squares out and put that on those flat landings of that styrofoam to give it a little bit of a more secure area for that camera to sit.
I'm sure we could put our heads together and come up with something awesome.
We always do.
Gotta stay fly, you know.
That's right. Got to keep it up in the air. So I guess we'll take it out and fly it and show everybody about how it does with flaps and everything. Before, whenever I did flaps, I just stuck one of the servos in backwards. So that way both servos would be operating in the same direction for flaps. If you get this plane and you are not an experienced flyer, that's okay. There's a thing called exponentials that you can change. If you've got a radio, a programmable radio, there's several of them, but most of the programmable radios that are worth having have a LCD screen. You can change the amount of throw the servos have. That's the exponential. Right now I've got this one set for 60% unless I flip these switches. If I flip, let's see, this one's the rudder. If I flip it up, I've got 100% throw on that servo, which means it will move that rudder as far as it can if I move that stick as far over as I can. Now, if I have it switched down, that's 60%, which means if I push this stick all the way over, that servo is only going to move that elevator, or I mean that rudder, 60% of what it can do. And the good part about doing that,
Is that considered low rate?
right, exactly,
Okay.
low rates. Yeah, if you have a DX5 Spectrum, it'll have a switch for low and high rates. It'll be right here, as a matter of fact. If you're not an experienced flyer, that switch is just fine. I think it's about 60 to 70% throw on your servos. Yeah, if you're not an experienced flyer, this plane is still a great plane. If you address all those issues with the wingspar and well, I don't know how to address the motor mount situation. But yeah, the main thing is just that wingspar. The landing gear is going to get a little bit loose. Just what I did is I just stuck a bunch of Gorilla Glue in there and filled in the gap where it was getting slack, and that took care of that problem.
I have a
Yeah.
few ideas that we could do to provide lots of security for the motor mount, and in case of emergency nose down collisions. I'm pretty sure we could come up with something. I have a few ideas that
Yeah.
may be efficient.
You want to talk about them? So
Uh,
right here's that plastic that just breaks away.
yeah, it's like plastic housing that supports from this carbon fiber rod here to the actual motor compartment. What I was thinking was actually taking the wing setup here, building it onto the wing. So once you place this here, it's going to perform as a wall, but at the same time make it hollow so
So
the
air can
motor,
get in.
yeah, so the
That's not a
motor,
bad idea.
so the motor can maintain a cool temperature, but at the same time, during in case you have a nose down collision, this takes a less risk of this getting any damages.
Right. That's not a bad idea, but the thing is,
And it'll maintain
the
aerodynamics.
the thing about this rubber band is when you have a collision, it's gonna take some of that slack. It's gonna absorb some of that shock so that your wings don't just break off like a. If you ever had those little styrofoam gliders from Walmart, 4-foot wingspan, you throw them, the wings break off. And if you glue them in there, like I've done it many times, and it noses down, they literally break off. The styrofoam breaks.
So in other words, you want it to give a little.
Right, you want it to give, and because of that give, if you put that piece you're talking about on there, it would move out of the way anyways, and this would still slam forward.
Understood.
But that does bring another thing I want to talk about with this. These rubber bands, you don't want to stick more than about let's see, more than about 4 of them on there. 2 going in this direction, and 2 going cross in a cross pattern like this. And the reason why you don't want more than 2 in there is because if you do a sharp upwards, if you're in a dive and you pull up real fast, that wing spar, instead of snapping, maybe the rubber band will give enough to keep that wing spar from breaking if you don't have a way to support it. I've got some 7mm carbon fiber rods coming, so when that comes, I'm going to see how it fits in that hollow wing spar, and if it fits in there correctly, then I'll probably do away with that solid 1/4-inch carbon fiber rod, because that only goes in about this far. It's only about 12 inches long, and if they made the whole thing solid, it'd be a lot more rigid, and I highly doubt the wing spar would ever fail in, but then you got a lot of extra weight. So let's go ahead and carry this out.
So we're gonna fly now?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool. We'll see you guys at the flying field.